I, 35F, pay for everything, and work all the time, including, unpaid, for my husband's business, M33, while he refuses to discuss/do housework. My husband, M33, and I, F35, have lived together for 5 years. Since we've been married, 2.5 years, we have huge, ridiculous fights over housework. I've read and shared with him the comic If Only You Asked and the blog post She Divorced Me Because I Left Dishes by the Sink. It doesn't sink in. After we got married, he started studying a full-time master's, and while he's taken on debt to pay for school, most of the living expenses have fallen to me, which was never clearly discussed/asked of me. We got a studio apartment and try to keep expenses down. I am a freelance writer and my income is unstable. The uncertainty can be tough, and my projects are maximum 2 months, so I'm always at risk. But when I am working, it's on deadline and it's intense, so I literally can't do anything else and put in long hours. Last year my husband graduated at the same time as COVID lockdowns hit, so any chance of him getting a job seemed to go out the window. He applied for a few months, but in the summer I encouraged him to start a business and even offered to invest and finance it. I also work for his business, unpaid, partly because I wanted to monitor my investment, and partly because we have compatible skills. I can contribute. If his business succeeds, it should benefit both of us. Despite all this, we still have huge fights over who is responsible at home. I feel like I'm already giving too much by 1. Paying for literally everything for the last 2.5 plus years. 2. Financially supporting his business. 3. Working for free on his business, even though I've asked him to work for/help me, he refuses. Quite frankly, I am working all the time, or sleeping, and don't have time for housework. I also have the huge burden of feeling responsible for literally everything in our relationship, including his business. We have already fought a lot about housework before this, and these fights, even if trivial, have always been explosive. I've asked him in calm moments to work on a plan for sharing household responsibilities, to break the unhealthy/unhelpful pattern. He refused to even have the conversation about it and insisted that he'd just do everything. I still paid for a bi-weekly cleaning person for a deep clean while he did most of the day-to-day tasks. Of course, I would chip in when things needed to be done. We live in a large studio. If dishes are piling out of the sink, we have no dishwasher, then they're visible in my background on Zoom, which looks really unprofessional. Further, very simply, it stresses me out. I don't like having a dirty place, especially it's easy to procrastinate by cleaning instead of writing, which is what pays the bills. I've explained all this to the husband many times. Yesterday morning I was annoyed because the kitchen was a mess. I'm talking disgusting. Dried crusty tomato seeds on the tablecloth, pieces of cooked rice stuck to the floor, the entire stove was covered in dried sauce, and the sink was so full you couldn't use it. Not a clean utensil to be found. A husband could see I was bothered, and asked me what was wrong. I told him that I was upset, the place was a mess and I couldn't make my breakfast without cleaning first and I didn't have time. He became explosively mad because he'd made dinner the previous night and he would get to it. After about 48 hours he still refused to talk about it and decided to get an Airbnb and move out. This happened once before where he left for a week. I later found out he was also having an affair, but in other moments when he's bitterly mentioned he would leave, I said if he goes then that's it for me. It would be the end of our relationship. It's unhealthy and it shouldn't happen. Moving out to avoid a constructive conversation about how to resolve an issue isn't going to improve things, it just makes it worse. He left too long, didn't read. Everything in my marriage is off balance. I, wife, pay for everything, work all the time, including for my husband, for free, and he refuses to discuss/do housework, which is a minimum that he can contribute. He wanted to move out for some space and I told him doing so would end our marriage. He left anyway. Maybe not what you want to hear, but he cheated on you before, clearly does not understand the extent of your contributions, financial, mental and emotional, to this relationship, and has shown you through his actions, leaving, not working on himself to help you in house chores, that he does not want to put in the work in your relationship. It's likely that your relationship is not salvageable at this point. Save yourself the money and heartache now. You deserve so much more than the constant stress of dealing with a man-child. Good luck. Cheering for you, smile. Clearly does not understand the extent of your contributions. More likely he doesn't care. I literally gasped at the affair part. It was already so absurdly bad leading up to this point. Why are you with this man? You said that you told him if he leaves then that is it for you. If you do not follow through on that ultimatum and allow him back into your life, he will only continue his disrespectful and dismissive behaviors because he knows you won't do anything about it. I am always surprised when I read posts like this because it seems obvious that he does not love you or respect you as a person, yet you are still with him and seeking affirmations from Reddit that it's okay to leave. It is more than okay to leave someone who does not respect you. If you stay, then not only does he not respect you, but you do not respect yourself. The level of disrespect here is bananas to me. I'm also a freelancer. You know what my partner does when I am stressed over a big deadline? He makes me lunches and dinners. He brings me tea. He steps up on housework. He comes into my office just to give a smooch and some encouragement. I would not tolerate half of what you have. You support your family, work, and help him with his own work, and instead of gratitude, you are getting served with resentment and more household chores, a refusal to communicate, and most importantly, refusal to put in the work to make it work. He's stonewalling. It's one of John Gottman's 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, along with contempt, criticism, and defensiveness. I'd suggest looking up this reference and see how many of these behaviors he displays in his interactions with you. Does he respect you? Do you respect him? Love isn't always enough. Like the analogy of the shit sandwich, a sandwich, layered with delicious toppings, but with one thin layer of shit. All of those other toppings, the arugula, the caramelized onions, the roasted cherry tomatoes, the fontina, don't make up for that shit layer. I have loved people who had an incompatibility that would make them a terrible partner long term. And a question for you, do you not believe you deserve better than what he is giving you? If not, that is something you may want to work on. Good luck. Just to clarify, he has an explosive temper, a history of cheating, is unreliable, spends money he doesn't have on Airbnbs, spends your money on just about everything else, exploits you for free labor, and routinely invalidates her feelings. Is that everything? I ask because I can't see a single reason why you or anyone would remain in a situation so demoralizing and inequitable. My 22F sister, 18F, is getting violent and unpredictable, and my family has no idea how to control her. I have been a long time lurker here, but I have never thought I would be making a post because compared to what other people go through it may not be that bad, but writing about it is actually calming me right now, so I will just keep on writing. My sister and I are 2 sisters in a family that is fairly normal. We are working class but not struggling or anything. I am a 4th-year law student, so nowadays I am just trying to graduate and find a job afterwards. My sister is 4 years younger than me and she is also a uni student. I know that it will be weird when I say this, but my sister is just someone who never ever owns up to her mistakes, and while it's not exactly a crime, I really think all of her problems start there. You know how there are memes about procrastinating your school project until Sunday night and asking help from your mom innocently and she gets mad at you? My sister used to do this in like middle school or whatever, and if my mom even tried to scold her or even say you shouldn't have waited all weekend, my sister would scream at her. This happened more than once. I am using this example because it is kind of a universal experience somehow, but what child would scream at her mother in this scenario? Me and other thousands of normal people have simply accepted our mistakes and took the scolding. I know it's a weird example, but I think this really shows what kind of a person my sister have always been. While years past she became this aggressive person who just yells and screams at her family all the time over the smallest of things. She once spit on the food my mom was making because she was angry at something. She threw stuff around more than once. She called me a whore, a devil, etc. She calls my parents stupid all the time. It got worse and worse during her high school years, but last year with the uni exam was the worst. She is a lazy person and didn't study at all. My mom actually took her to psychiatrists, and I think one of them said my sister was clinically depressed and she was prescribed Lustral. I think she was taking them, but my mom made her give them up for some reason a few months ago, and this last months with all of us staying inside all the time because of the pandemic have been a living hell. She has never accepted that maybe she has problems. Anytime someone makes a suggestion to see a doctor again, she screams how she is completely normal. She tried to beat me up during the last few months multiple times. My mom literally rescued me from her. Today, she screamed and yelled at my mom because my mom suggested to make an omelette instead of waffles for breakfast. I was on Zoom listening to a lesson. I actually wanted to participate, but the chance of her yelling in the background made me want not to. I was thinking, what kind of a house is this that we're in constant fear of her screaming and throwing things at us? So after my lesson was over, I just went to my mom and started complaining. Then my sister heard us and came. I just started screaming at her. I know how bad this is going to sound, but I screamed how I wished she were dead multiple times. This is the first time I said anything like this. Then somehow things calmed down when we both went back to our rooms, and she barged into my room a few minutes later screaming how she is not going to let me have a good day after I ruined hers. My mom had to get in between us. She yelled how she wouldn't calm down until she beat me up and didn't leave my room. My mom was literally restraining her, trying to get her out of my room. She is stronger than me, but my mom. She even threw a few punches at my mom too, so I interfered, but she scratched my face with her fingernails and there was blood under my eye. She somehow thought that my eye were bleeding, and when she saw the blood she started crying and yelling, I am sorry, I am sorry, I am sorry, I didn't mean it, and she left the room but still screamed at my mom. This time she directed her anger at my mom. And you know what's funny? When I talked about how embarrassing it would be if I were talking at class and she was yelling at the background, she screamed how I could just use a headphone and background noises wouldn't be heard, as if that is the only problem here. When I talk to my friends about this, the first thing they always suggest is that I am a good student and she isn't really, so that makes her jealous. My mom today told me that my being, as in just being alive, annoys her because I'm older and studying, and she is not, because of her laziness. I am literally not better than her at anything other than school. Who the fuck hates someone because they are studying in order to graduate, and they are not? Though I know this is maybe a weird post, I know that I am not a perfect person, that I sometimes yell too, but I really need to know if there are other people going through this thing that I probably failed to describe. My mom and dad are not aggressive people, they're not abusive. Literally no one in my family, other than my sister, actually tried to beat someone up like this. I am crying writing this because on the surface it does not look like that serious, and maybe it is not, but I am realizing that if my mom didn't interfere she would harm me physically, and I am living with this person. And I just want to say something too. I don't give a single fuck if she is depressed. Her mental health doesn't give her a permission to treat us like this. My parents literally have no idea how to deal with her. I complain and my mom says she did try to take her to a doctor, but my sister doesn't even accept that her aggressiveness is not fucking normal. My mom asks me what I would do if I were the mom, and to be honest I don't have any idea either. My mom always tells me to ignore her, and sometimes I manage, but I can't fucking stand this, I really can't. Too long didn't read. My sister is a really aggressive person and actually tried to beat me more than once. She screams at my parents and me all the time over the smallest things. My family and I have no idea how to deal with her. Sorry for the long post, and English isn't my first language, so I apologize if this is a bit incoherent. Is it reasonable to want my partner to find me attractive when I am objectively not? Too long didn't read. I am unattractive, but I really have the desire for my partner to find me attractive. Is it reasonable? Just for some info, I am a male in my early 20s. Starting a few years back, I noticed people would make really negative comments about my looks. At first I didn't really pay much attention to them since I was decently secure in my looks, but over time I realized that people are saying this stuff for a reason. Just for context, some of the comments are, for example, me overhearing people saying my looks are bottom of the barrel, or my ex saying I was a 3/10, or people turning to me and saying and you're a good person right after calling all the friends I was with hot. I am not disfigured and do what I can to be presentable, just for myself at this point really. I dress well, go to the gym regularly, and stay well groomed. But the issue is I don't know if some of the things I want are reasonable or even possible. I want a girl to look at me and smile and say I am handsome or cute and mean it. Maybe even say she thinks I'm hot, lol. But I know that if I have any relationships it will be a result of who I am as a person. So yes, my partner will have attraction towards me, but they won't necessarily find me cute/handsome. And that is what I have seen and experienced multiple times now. So is it reasonable for someone who looks the way I do to want a partner to find me physically attractive? Or am I again setting myself up for disappointment? Edit. Thank you all for your thoughts and advice, smile. A lot of you have said that developing feeling and emotional bonds influence attraction. I have experienced that firsthand. People have told me they weren't attracted to me until they got to know me. But even then they never called me cute or anything, and they would always say my looks didn't matter. They said they weren't with me for how I looked. They were with me for who I was. But then they would always compliment their exes or other guys and call them hot, frown. Anyways, I think I am going to go focus on work and my goals for a bit. I'm getting in my own head and feeling like I won't ever be good enough. So if the choice is being lonely or being compared and ranked against others dudes I can't compete with, then I'll take being lonely, lamau. Thank you all.